We're back on City Life. Evelyn Thorne's here from Chelmsford. George Procopa's here from Centerville. And Matt LaLasher is running for City Council. Now, I'm sure somebody told you this, but the best way to introduce yourself to the public in a big full-page ad, I'm a big newspaper supporter, would be you'd be standing in front of LaLasher Park. And you're basically going to say, my family has a long tradition of helping Lowell.
That would be one
right.
way. Yes, very true.
Because Matt LaLasher is the grandson of Eddie LaLasher, famed Lowell state representative. And what did he own? The Stolepine?
Stolepine Market on Gorham Street.
Okay.
Sure.
Now,
Yeah.
how long has Ed been dead now?
78, I believe, 78, 79, right at the end of 78.
Yeah, because Dave took over then, right?
As far as my grandfather has passed away, 6 years ago.
Oh, okay, that's why you startled me.
No, I thought you went when Stolepine went out.
Okay,
Stolepine
good.
was
All right,
my
no,
grandfather was in until 1998.
Okay, all right, because then he was about 20 years in the
Almost 25.
state rep. Joe Mack was his aide, right?
Joe Mack.
I was a good friend of
Uncle
Joe Mack.
Absolutely.
And, but I don't know if George knew that or if Evelyn knew that, but he's the grandson of the person who the LaLasher Park is named for.
Well, I figured
Well,
by
I
the
think
last
by the
name.
last name.
Yeah.
Well, but there's a
we
lot
have
of
an indication.
LaLashers.
And a little hint.
Huh? There's not a lot of LaLashers?
They're all related to Eddie.
In this area, there's some in Pennsylvania. But yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But, so we got that out.
And some of them are related to Eddie down in Pennsylvania, too. So
They are. Yeah.
This is your first time on City Life.
It is.
So I have two questions that I ask.
Okay.
And they're softballs. Who's Eddie? Who's Matt LaLasher? See, I fell into a trap.
It's all right.
My
It's a
own
good
trap
name
that
to
I
have had,
created.
yeah.
So, introduce yourself to the public.
Sure.
And then give your pitch. You don't have to do it right now, but maybe you better do it right now because you may not
keep
have any
getting
time.
Before everyone gets to work.
Yeah.
No.
So,
Well, it isn't just that. We've been on different tangents, and it's like
topics.
crazy this morning in comparison.
That's all right. That's
so
all right. Good time.
just let's you give your biography, as I won't say it any differently. If you were ever on parole, you can mention that. If you graduated from law school, you can mention that. If you, whatever you want, your family.
Sure.
You could have said you're the grandson of
Yeah, because
Eddie
if he's
LaLasher.
running for office, he has a spiel already.
Yeah, well, right, but the resume has to get out there.
Well,
And then the basic pitch to the voters.
sure. Well,
So we'll start with that.
I
Okay.
appreciate you having me on and welcoming me into the show. As I've been doing the rounds, going to a number of different shows on radio and television, this is definitely one that you have to make your mark at and make sure everybody.
Are you talking seriously, or are you just?
Oh no! Listen, everybody will tell you. You got to go through
yeah.
City Life.
He's
Have you
doing
gone
the
to City Life?
stroking right now, so that you're not going to ask him difficult questions.
Well, no. My grandfather, if he taught me anything, it was to do that now. So I'm a lifelong Lowell resident. Graduated of Lowell High School in 1997. My wife's a Lowell resident. I have 3 little Lowell residents that we're raising now, 9, 7, and 3. And I've always...
what's your wife's name? What's your kids' names?
My wife's name's Shannon, and the kids are Caitlin, Dylan, and Emily. Caitlin 9, Dylan 7, and Emily 3. And I've always had Lowell in my heart, and I've had politics around me, so those two things have always been there.
Where do you live?
I live in...
You don't have to tell us the street, but
Sure,
the area.
sure, come on over, we'll have coffee. No, I live in Pawtucketville
Okay.
currently. I'm a Highlands resident, born and raised.
Oh my, you got it covered.
Oh, and then my grandfather covered Belvedere, right?
did,
So
he
there
did.
we go. Maybe we'll be all right. But no, there's all sections of the city. Obviously, as I've been knocking on doors, I've been very fortunate to hear that the last name's known by a few, and so that
Come on now.
that obviously gives me name recognition. But I hope what everyone sees, and the reason that I'm running, is the last time we went through a window like we're in right now, I think, in the city, was about 20, 25 years ago. And we came out of the other side of that window with an arena, with a ballpark, and with redevelopment that started to change the face of where the city was. I feel that we're in another one of those windows right now. We're in a time of the next maybe 4 to 6 years where we'll have Hamilton Canal, we'll have the project that Sal Lapoli is doing, we'll have what Dave Daly's doing across from the auditorium. The courthouses are all going to become surplus, assuming the state doesn't hold on to them. We're going to have land and development, and I'm sure we'll get to the high school as another opportunity.
Of course, we got the Lowell Sun, which has a thing that angers me on the front page. I like what they put, but
Sure. Well, I think all of those things, and this time, if I'm fortunate enough to be added to the council and be a member, I really feel we're going to have a window to do some big things. And I didn't think I could sit back on the sidelines any longer if this is something I wanted to do. So that's really the reason I stepped in at a time when we can reshape what Lowell looks like for years into the future in this window, and that's my hope.
Okay, now I interrupted you,
Sure.
and John interrupted you. Is there anything else you want to say about your resume? Because he asked you about your children, and I gave the pitch for your grandfather, and so, I mean, do you want to say anything else?
Sure, I guess the only other thing, George, I would add is I've spent much of the last 10 years running the trade association for all the gas stations, repair shops, convenience stores all throughout New England. So I have had to take
So
on...
if my car breaks down, I can
Your car
call
breaks
you?
down, I've got a guy.
Okay.
Yeah, if you need a place to buy a candy bar, I've got a guy.
All right.
Yeah, we've got... but there, over 1,900 businesses are involved inside
wow.
the association. And so I've spent many years, for the last 10 years, working with small business owners and have a pretty good sense of the issues that they are facing every day. I've also had to spend a number of times down at the State House working on issues from gas taxes to candy taxes to bills to how you repair vehicles. So I've been in the political sphere, I've been around this area, and I hope that those two other pieces of my background will serve me well and serve the city well if I'm lucky enough to be added to the council.
Okay, now I'm going to say this. I should have said it before you started, but John has a little note here, and it says, we need to look at the camera. And I violate it all the time, but being polite.
How does anyone take their eyes off you, George? I don't know.
Now I think you're losing my vote with that statement. But actually, the question, well, George, do you have any questions? Evelyn's from Chelmsford. I'm sure she doesn't have any.
Oh, yeah, you're funny. Like I'm never at a loss for words.
Well, I didn't say that. But, George, you have any questions for Ed that you might want to? For Matt, say, oh, this
okay.
bothers me. I'm embarrassed.
The Freudian slip.
It's rolling over.
It's not a bad thing when they're in the voting booth.
Well, before we came on camera, you mentioned something about the low voting turnout. Mm-hmm. What do you think about your campaign and you that would drive people to come out in droves to vote?
Yeah, I will say that my hope is that the high school debate and all the things that have started to come up have led to maybe a new engagement and a new level of individuals paying attention to what's going on. My generation has probably sat on the sidelines too long in getting involved in what they want to see. It's our children that are going to be inside these schools. It's my friends and family that are going to be the police officers, firefighters, and currently are as we move forward in this city. And so my hope is that our generation will take it upon ourselves to work with the current leaders, with what they've already done, and maybe work ourselves towards bringing in a more diverse electorate in a lot of cases, to go to a lot of places where there haven't been people voting in the past. And I think we have that energy and that engagement right now. And as we move through the high school process and the decision is finally made, I'd love to see us pivot towards bringing people into the process and using that involvement to drive people to the polls. Because Lowell, we have an untapped resource of tens of thousands of individuals who have a voice and have an opinion, who are, for whatever reason at this point, feeling that their voice isn't being heard. And so my hope is that I can help with others who I know have this as a goal, try to rally people to go out, register new voters, talk on a local level, go to the neighborhood meetings, do these things, and try and pull people in. It's not an easy task. It doesn't matter where you are in the Commonwealth or throughout the country. Voter turnout is down. And I think the political atmosphere probably has something to do with that. It's easier to tune out the yelling back and forth than it is to get involved. But we've got to try. We're going to be facing a situation in the future where we're either going to have to be forced to make some changes to look at the way that our electorate is, the diversity of the electorate right now, or we can get out in front of it and start to take some steps before we're forced by anyone to do it. So my hope is we take this seriously, and that becomes the next area that we focus on as we move forward after we get through this little thing called the high school.
Well, what's your opinion on the high school?
I've been out for a little while, and I've spoken a number of times. I believe a new high school at Colley Stadium is the right thing for the city.
Okay, I think I knew that, but I wanted to make sure that
It's on record.
Yes. Right.
I've been on record before, and I will go on record numerous times on this subject. I feel it's the combination of the best educational option and what we have for potential economic development. as I mentioned.
Do you find that in your age bracket that more individuals are for a new high school versus having anything downtown? Have you done a poll?
Yeah, so nothing that would be scientific, but I can tell you through, I have a number of people who I've grown up with and I respect that are my age that are supporters of keeping it downtown. And so it's not that it's one way completely or the other, but I will tell you that a lot of the emotion and a lot of the energy is all centered around the current state of that high school. Our young children, as I mentioned, I have young children that are coming through the system, and many of us do. And it's what's going to be the best educationally for our kids and all kids as we're moving forward that really drives the debate for my generation. As I've been out on the road and shaking hands and talking to individuals, the real discussion amongst most people is how much is this going to cost and how bad is it going to hurt my tax bill? You know, how much we're going to need to raise the taxes to pay for it. So my generation, I feel it's 70-30, whatever the number is, 60-40, whatever you want to say, it's probably more than 60-40, that are looking that the new high school leads to our children having an opportunity that is, it's unique and something we may never have another chance to do in the next 50 to 70 years. I'm nostalgic towards that high school. I'm a graduate of that high school, but my nostalgia towards that high school isn't necessarily the building. It's the people I was in school with.
Exactly.
It's the teachers that taught me there. Lowell is more than a building in downtown Lowell. We all know that. And I just think that we can still have our identity without having 14 to 18-year-olds down there every single day. I just think the argument that moving them out of there is going to somehow make them not connected to the city. The city is us. The city is the people we're around. It's the diversity of the students. It's the diversity of all aspects of what you see in this city. I know it prepared me for a lot of things in my life to see everything from someone who is in public housing to someone who's the son or daughter of the vice president of Nike. All part of my life or all around me at different points in Lowell. And that's Lowell. That culture's not going anywhere. And so I don't think by moving the school we're going to lose the students or lose any of that. As we go.
So given with your unscientific poll and with your generation, and my generation is not far from your generation, but you mentioned some of your friends would want it to have the school downtown.
Yeah.
So what do they feel if the final decision was to move to Collie? Would they accept that decision, or would they try to fight that decision?
Yeah, I think both sides right now, with tensions as high as they are probably going to tell you that they may leave the city over which way this goes. I think it's our job. I don't think in reality that's where this is going to end. I think it's a corny line, but I think Lowell is in the soul of most of us, and we're going to have it no matter what. What's going to happen, though, is we're going to have to listen to the valid arguments that are being raised about traffic and about busing. If we solve those constructively, if we find a way to make sure that we move through those without large eminent domain takings, which is a big fear of the people that are pro-downtown supporters, if we ensure that the students are getting bused and getting out to, so access is not an issue, the after-school programs that are important that may be back here in downtown Lowell, are we going to have special van services? I think we can lead to these solutions, and as we do, I think the temperature will dial down. But right now, a lot of people are still fighting, as we witnessed last night, are still looking to see if they can get it still into...
Did you read the Sun's editorial yesterday?
Yeah, I did.
It was brutal toward the people who were against Collie.
Yeah.
They basically said the decisions made, move along, get together, unite. It was if you have, Evelyn, I know you don't get the Sun, but if the editorial is, I didn't bring it in, but it was awful. I mean, if you were a downtowner, they were basically calling you a traitor. Now that the decision has been made, it was a...
Yeah, there's no question, and I can tell you that as I said, I have people that I know and respect that are downtown supporters, and I don't think that they're traitors.
Okay.
So I don't think that we have to get to that level, but I get the point.
They get the message across. That's what
Exactly.
I say to John. I think we have to have an entertainment show, not just a wonk show, and so therefore I treat it as an entertainment show as much as I can.
Yeah.
So, but And entertainment is argument, meaning public likes that. That's why they have all the arguments in
On
TV.
talk shows.
Yes.
Debate
Which
is
drives me nuts.
maybe,
You're part of one.
Well, I am here, but watching it is a little different than participating in it.
Yeah, but some of the
I'd-
people out there might be saying, well, look at him. Why is he talking? He is worse than anybody with his hitting
But do we
people over the
wonder?
head. Huh?
Do we wonder though if all of that debate, all of that back and forth, is part of why voter turnout is down? Do we ever wonder if maybe we're getting too right, left, this side, that side? To
It
a
depends
point
on your
where we're going?
issues. Because in Chelmsford, you can, presidential election, you get a very high number in comparison sometimes to a local election.
Absolutely.
If you have a money issue on your ballot, you're getting people to come out to vote on it. So people have there is a common denominator for why they go out and they vote. When you took a look at the presidential election, people came out to vote because they didn't like the stuff that was going on for the prior 8 years. And they were like, we need to change this.
Sure.
And we really don't want another career politician there.
Yep.
So it depends, again, on the motivation and how collectively you can get the motivation to focus on being supportive of a common goal out there, instead of having all the different factions. It's got to be focused.
Yep.
But you did say about how, everybody needs to, come together and focus on the right reasons and then move forward towards the goal instead of all of the dissension that's happening. But you continually will have things from the past get dredged up.
Sure.
For instance,
I
we
do it
had-
all the time with you, Evelyn.
I know. You just can't get away from it. History is lovely. But one of the things that they had was that there was some lawsuit or something that they wanted to do in order to have representation of different areas versus having it all at large. We talked briefly about that. Sure. So how do you feel about that? The pros and cons, are you in favor, aren't you? And then do you think that in your area, you obviously in your neighborhood, but a lot of other places, is there enough support? If they did that, would you win in your area?
Well, I would say to the first half of the question, I have to be convinced that it's actually going to solve the problem. And so I don't want to see us moving away from an at-large counselor system to a ward system because we're trying to placate a certain crowd or we think we're going to solve an issue without the data to show me that. I'm not positive. And I can tell you, I've known many of the city councilors that are currently there today for a while, and I know many of the candidates that are running. It's not just a cliche when they tell you that they represent everybody throughout the city. It's not as if that they're there saying, I'm going to represent the 4 streets around where I live. And so I think that in conjunction with a Plan E form of government, I think it's been very good to the city of Lowell. I think Lowell has fared a little better than a lot of the other gateway cities because we've had professional management and because we've had people that have to answer to the entire city. With that having been said, if someone can show me that by going to 5 or 6 ward councilors in conjunction with a few at-large, if that's going to be something that can drive voter turnout, I'm ready to listen. I would be willing to sit and have that conversation. But I feel I would want to be shown that that's the way it's going to go. Because I think that's the intent of the suit, is that you're going to be able to drive more people to the process and potentially get a more diverse council as we move forward. If all we do is go to ward counseling and then people start protecting their own little section to continue to get reelected, I think that puts the city step back by going that way as opposed to staying in an at-large system.
Well, I think we see the same approach whether or not you go to state or federal government. Chelmsford has representative town meeting. So we have 9 precincts, and we have...
Mr. Cohen was my neighbor as a child growing up, so you know.
We have
A good Lowellian.
18, and we have the superintendents in Lowell, from Lowell too.
Absolutely.
But we have 18 individuals that are elected alternately over 3 years. And in some cases, they do represent their precinct, but generally, they're representing the whole town and what's better for the whole town unless there's a real big issue. But all of the different warrants, and so you can take a look at that. However, there are some problem areas where that's a larger group than what the city council would be. But one of the things is motivating people to run in those areas, because right now you have individuals that are running for reasons, that they list. And one of the reasons isn't, I want to represent Pawtucketville or I want to represent the Highlands. It's because this is what I want to do for the city of Lowell.
Yep.
Yes.
When you get into the ward situation, now it becomes more territorial.
Yes.
And I did bring that up, I don't know if it was I think it was last week, and they didn't have an answer. What if you have nobody that wants to run? Then what do you do?
That's a very good
And
point.
who are you going to
Which-
solicit?
Absolutely.
Yeah, which, to the point, I think when you talk about the lack of diversity, it's the representation, right? So if you have low turnout and you have nobody that wants to run, I mean, how do you solve that problem?
I would tell you through conversations I've had in some of the neighborhood groups, and recently just had a really good conversation.
By the way, you haven't come to my neighborhood.
I'm
group
on my
yet,
way,
so you
sir.
will
I'm coming to say hello. I knew today when I saw her, so we will be seeing more of each other. But I'll tell you that what I hear in most cases is we've got to get more candidates that people feel comfortable and confident, and then rally to support those candidates. It's more a case of we've got to get more people into the system, more people that are willing to step forward and say, these things mean something to me.
Yes.
And then as a city, we have to do a better job, or every candidate has to do their own knocking on doors and walking and getting the word out. But maybe we have to do a better job of amplifying that. Maybe there should be more opportunities for people that aren't lucky enough to have my last name. I know as I go into this that I'm starting on first base, and I hope that I also know, as I tell everyone, I've got a lot to live up to. You know, I have a family name that that means a lot in this city, and so I have that weight. Not that I'm trading it in. I loved and respected
Get every
my
vote you
grandfather.
can get.
but others who are coming into the process don't have that.
Okay.
And so what do we do, and how do we amplify their opportunities as we move forward? Those are the things I think we should be talking about, as opposed to immediately jumping to a ward system. Because I'm just not sure, I haven't been convinced yet, that that's necessarily going to do anything other than maybe get some people entrenched in local neighborhoods. And that's not good, I think, for the city either, if we go down that path.
So how do you feel about actually changing how your election happens? The other reason why people may not want to run is because every 2 years they have to run. All have to run. So we have staggered terms so that you have, well, it depends on how many people there are. So we have 5 people on a school committee, so you have,
Two.
Yeah. And so you work it that way. And so sometimes you have one person, a single seat, and then it's 2 and 2 because we have 3-year terms. And when you do that, sometimes it increases more people wanting to run because there's less people to run against.
Then why did Sam Chase lose?
He
Now we
lost
can mention.
because he was on the wrong side of a money vote.
Okay, that's what drives the people out.
I
That's
said
what,
that.
Yeah, but that's what Matt said earlier too. But apparently, if you have enough issues,
And it was a single seat.
but people tend to run without anger, without basically charisma, and they're not going to win. Meaning, there's got to be.
Well, there's a lot of factors, as you well know,
Yeah.
in running. I mean, I sat 18 years on a school committee. I have, and ran for other offices and was involved in all kinds of other things that you get elected or appointed. And it's the message or the fact that people know that when you get in the position, you're going to work and you're not going to pay lip service. So there are other pieces to a candidate when they run, not because you're telling somebody what they want to hear. Although it seems lately that that's the way it works.
I believe that people are going to go in and vote based on Cawley. A number of people.
Well, that's with any particular issue.
That's the issue.
Right. Some people will go and vote for a candidate because they know they're going to make the right decisions because they know them and they know that they're going to get all of the information before they make the decision. It's not an emotional decision. It's a fact-finding decision. Other people will say, oh, that person is for an override. There's no way I'm going to vote for him. Regardless of
But
what
that's
that
why
person
Sam
represents.
Chase lost.
That's correct. And then the other guy said, no, I'm not going to vote for it. And I don't even know if that guy still lives in Chelmsford.
Okay,
I
but
So-
I will say, to your point, as I've gone out and tried to talk to people on this subject, the Cawley supporters are obviously very happy that I'm a Cawley supporter and are motivated to support my campaign from what I've gathered. But to those that are the downtown supporters, I've gone and told many the same thing. I had an individual when I spoke at a city council meeting on this subject grab me at the end and say that was a fantastic speech and there's no way in hell, I'll ever vote for you. That was his phrase to me. And I said, do you mind if I walk with you and ask why? And so over the course of the 5-minute conversation, all I said was, I just want you to hear how I make decisions, why I make decisions, so that if another decision comes forward, at least you know that I'm someone who weighs it out and comes to whatever decision that may be. Here's how my process works. And that's what I've been trying to tell all the downtown supporters. This is not going to be the only issue that we're going to face before us. I'm not wavering. I think it's the right decision to move it out to Cawley. So I don't want to argue back and forth on that subject, though I'm happy to listen. But at least hear through how I make decisions so that if I am elected or if you have other issues that you care about, this is how I decide things. And I think, to your point, that's kind of what you have to do. I hope that the electorate will look at it and say, is that someone that I trust that will work through the process and make a decision, block out outside influences, block out other things that may be involved, and make the decision that they believe is best for the city. I think that's the best we can do.
Yeah, because I've had a number of people that have voted for me in the past that said it isn't that we agree with what you're doing, but we always know why you're voting the way you are, because you make the statement.
And that, I'm sorry not to interrupt, but
that's okay.
That's the problem with the generation today, is that people today vote, they're one-issue voters. So
Could be.
after the school, what else? No one's going to vote on a different topic. I mean, if you live in
That's all we've been talking about for 6 months.
I know. If you live in a heavy traffic area and you would like to, to do something about it, have something done about it, then you're going to vote on that issue, and then you're not going to vote about the school. And this is the problem, it's that, there should be a holistic approach. But, I mean, how do you get people to come out there based on a broader issue?
I would tell you that, for me, if I could get everybody rallied around a single issue, the single issue is something that's been talked about a number of different times, but it's the economic development of the city of Lowell, because everything centers off of that. If we're going to be able to maintain this beautiful new school, we're going to need new revenue. If we're going to be able to pave the roads and install lights and do the things in the neighborhoods that people want, we need new revenue. That new revenue only comes from one of two places. We either bring in new business and continue to expand that base, or we're going to have to increase the rate. And for everyone that's out there, if you look at what's been in the budget for the last 4, 5, 6 years, you're looking at 1.5% to 2.5% increases every single year, no matter what, if we don't drive new revenue in this city. That's right. And so when we get to talking about what's going on with the high school, I think it's important for everyone to understand. We've got to, as a city, we have to decide Lowell has to grow. And we could all unite, all this emotion, all this energy can go towards people that know businesses and have relationships and can sell the city of Lowell. The Hamilton Canal Innovation District is going to move forward. I know we had slight setback by not getting a master developer in the last few days, but there seems to be quite a bit of interest, and I truly believe as that steel at the courthouse turns more into glass, as we start to see the finished work be done there, excuse me, there'll be other opportunities for people to take some of that land and do things. That whole area is our opportunity as we come forward, and I believe the high school is part of that. The high school is part of that new growth.
John wants to get in.
It's been a while. This is the first time you've got in, John.
Oh, well, wait till he starts now.
I'm good, okay. I got text messages here. Proportional voting is a much better system. We should revisit that. I respectfully disagree, but thank you for watching the show. What is George P.'s views on the voting lawsuit? In other news, Lowell Votes meets tonight at the Elliott Presbyterian Church, right across the corner from here at 6 p.m. The goal is to putting together an objective into a session on the voting rights lawsuit. And what do you think about the quality of the education in this city? We're $17,000 a student. Jonathan had called up before the break, and I wanted to let Matt come in and tell the community all about himself. And Matt, I appreciate you putting your hat in the ring and running for city council to try to make City of Lowell a better place. And I just want to comment on the getting more people to vote. Now, if I bring you out to the tennis court today and we play tennis, you're not going to play tennis well. You're not going to even want to go. And to a degree, the voters we have they're enlightened voters. They know what's going on. When somebody gets up to the polls to vote, they know who they're going to vote for before they go in there. They know what the questions on the ballot might be. If you get dragged to the polling place, we entice you to the voting place. It's like enticing you to the tennis court or the golf course. If you've never golfed before or played tennis before, you're going to do a lousy job. So we have to be careful about enticing people to vote because they're going to do a lousy job voting for people. And that's what I want to put on the plate about, well, we need more voters. We need to get more people. If you want to increase the voters, they have to be enlightened voters. But going back to the other two issues that we have here, George Procope, what's your feel on the lawsuit?
Well, it's easy to say that, okay, Lowell is such a diverse city, and when you look at the representation of Lowell in City Hall, you know, there is that lot. But to your point, John, you do want an educated voter.
No, enlightened, not educated. You don't have to be. You don't have a doctorate. Just enlightened about.
Okay.
No, yeah, I think you're educating in that they understand what they're voting for,
Yes,
not that
exactly,
they have a degree.
Exactly. They need to know what they're voting for. And I think, and you made a point earlier as well, is that you want to get people out there to run. You know, there's been a joke around this table on Tuesdays when I'm here. John always asks me, am I running? And I always say I couldn't be elected, you know, the dog catcher. So, but if you have people that, let's say like myself, who wants to run, then, you know, become enlightened, as you say, and make a stance to say that I want to represent something that's bigger than myself. And when I say that, I mean not just my little district, but I'm looking for issues that affects the city and everyone in the city. So as from the lawsuit in particular, my only comment is I think that we need to just have people out there, as Eileen mentioned earlier, get people out there to run, because you can't just look at the city and say, well, there's no one there that represents me. You have to be out there. You have to be an activist. I mean, I'm out there because I like the neighborhood that I live in, and I'm trying to improve it. I'm not trying to make a name for myself. It's an unselfish cause. I don't get paid for it. It's not my full-time job. I volunteer. And I think it's a very touchy topic.
I think they can be one and the same, John, in all honesty, of what we can be doing out there. I by no means think we need to be incentivizing or enticing people to the polls. That's not going to get us a good result. But what we can do, and what we potentially have the opportunity for as we move forward, there are all sorts of new mediums. Just ask the Lowell Sun about their circulation, about how much things have changed, about how people get their information.
The Lowell Sun doesn't take questions.
They do editorials, though, so maybe they'll comment on. Yeah,
they have a real effect on how people vote.
The problem with editorial, it's a soapbox. It's a soapbox. They hop in their soap. They don't want. When you call the Lowell Sun, they say, just a minute. Just a minute. Did you have a question for me? Go right ahead. That's what they do. They don't listen.
So I think you're making an extension of my point, is that what we need to do is look at new mediums and new ways to reach people. Nowadays, and you know, I use my little goofy prop, my cell phone, everyone has their head down all day looking at what's going on and what they're getting through their cell phone. And that goes across socioeconomic status. It doesn't really matter. Everybody's got
But
their
Matt,
phone.
on the cell phone, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I'm going to wait until like after Christmas to talk about this. But it's going to be up to the federal government to regulate these things. Okay? These phones have got to be regulated. Children are becoming addicted to these.
Yes.
They have to have, and it's got to be fixed. It's a real. There are people at Google that study how do you become. Let's have the kid watch this thing even more. Let's have the young adult watch this thing. We're driving down the highway. Look to the car to the right or left. Everybody's looking at their phone.
Question.
It's got to be federally regulated. Nikki Saugus I certainly hope that she can, if she can go out and put something on this before she goes, this would be her legacy. To stop cell phone addiction. It's got to be stopped from the manufacturer's point.
Yep.
This is way beyond our talk today, but only the likes of Nikki Songus are the only one who can fix this at this time.
Well, I won't miss the opportunity at least to say on that, I think we always should try education over regulation first. So I would be a fan of being able to trumpet what's going on studies and things along those lines, because I'm telling you.
They love it, baby.
They do, but
They love it, baby.
I understand, but when you look at what's gone on, let's say, with tobacco, and the way that we have seen a reduction in tobacco usage, what started that whole process? Being able to out the cigarette companies that they were putting toxins that were killing people in the early 90s, and I think then we had warnings and labels and things like that. I'm not saying we don't get to where you are, John, but you gotta start.
We have multi-million-dollar corporations
As with the cigarette companies.
with advertising, enticement that's never been seen before. You have Hollywood professionals that are promoted,
No
that know
question.
how to make you, I love my phone.
I know,
Yeah,
but what was Joe Camel?
I'm okay with my phone.
That's what Joe Camel was.
It needs to be regulated. It needs to be. This addiction has got to stop.
I don't disagree on
And
that.
I'll tell you what, listen, I'll tell you what we do at my household. At dinner time, you put that phone over there. At nighttime, you put that phone over there. In the morning, you know, if you need, and well, I always used to joke that I use my cell phone, now it's a little bit more, to say 3 things. I'm late, I'm lost, and I'm sorry. That was it. Obviously, you know, you can't do that today, but the regulation, I think, probably one is, because as you're talking, John, kids, it's also the adults. Because you see mother and daughter, father and son, and everybody's just looking at the phone and nobody's talking.
Well, they are sometimes they communicate. It's
By text right next to each other.
Yeah.
Oh, it's unbelievable. I took a picture when I was away in York with my family a few weeks ago, where there were 8 children between the ages of 3 and 9 sitting. 8 children looking at a device.
But
None of them.
Matt,
So all of the parents noticed and pulled the devices away and
But
said,
to-
"Go outside."
But to
we have
your
people
point,
that will say, "What's wrong with that? What's
Okay,
wrong with
so
that? What's wrong
to-
with the 8 kids
to your-
not conversing with each other, but conversing with someone in the universe?"
So to your point, and the point you were trying to make, if you had a health situation,
Agreed.
all right, so there was some discussion, we'll put that in quotes, that looking at a computer screen too much may give you macular degeneration.
Right.
All right, you do not know what the long-term effects are to start with a 3-year-old or a 2-year-old that knows how more probably than I do.
Look at the
about what's
depression
going on.
studies and some of the things that are already out there about
Well,
increased depression.
Right, but the
Yeah.
piece is it's not PI.
Evelyn,
because
I'll
this
do
is
it until I
money.
need glasses.
This is a money-making situation.
I completely agree.
And, but if it could be proven, kind of like when they had the thing where if you have, they're saying brain cancer. Well, there wasn't enough data for that because they don't have enough people. The problem is that you don't want to have enough people to prove it. You want to try to figure it out ahead of time. But you don't know. But the only way your argument works in terms of the cigarette piece, it's not the addiction piece in terms of that because that's out there someplace. It's hard to touch. But if my health is concerned with this,
Yep.
all right, that's an issue. Because I did talk to my eye doctor, but there are glasses that you can have that reduces that glare, that filters out certain things.
Oh, there are certain
so you can
screens
do
you
it.
can get.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there.
But the thing is, the only way that argument works is in terms of health, because an addiction thing for many people is not relative.
Well, I would just say, as a parent and in general, let's first always try to educate on what the situation is before someone else regulates what I can and can't do. Educate first, and if it's not working, to John's point, then maybe there is a role for the government.
Yeah, well,
But,
unless you get an awful lot of liberal individuals that tell you have to have a seatbelt, even though the smart thing and the right thing is to wear the seatbelt.
Sure.
Yeah.
And that's why I say, if we see study after study and things that are out there that are showing that even with the education efforts that we're still having a serious problem, then I'd listen to the regulation conversation. But I don't think we're doing a very good job yet on that. But where this all started, the point of all of this is those phones and the ability to communicate a message to the outside world on a consistent basis. I think the city and candidates and other people need to look to that. That's the new wave of the future. Not that the Lowell Sun isn't extremely important, and not that I get the Sun, and that is one of the avenues, one of the mediums. But I think maybe we have to be doing more to push out consistent information to individuals. You've seen it. How many people have the news pop up on their phone, and they get 2 or 3 lines of a headline, and that's what they know about the subject and move on to the rest of their day?
Well, that's because everything has to be instant. Instant gratification. Instant knowledge. The other thing is that you can communicate now. You don't have to wait like you used to have to wait to go home to make a phone call and have time to think about what it was you were going to say or what you're going to text.
Our president
but
could listen to that.
And many other people do too. And then it's a matter of interpretation of what it is that you're saying. So it's how it's taken. So I don't want to get off in that tangent. Yeah. But the piece in terms of regulation versus education, people know that they shouldn't be texting and driving, but they do. So now you have to regulate it because there are people that don't do it because they know that's the wrong thing to do because it takes your attention away. And some people just can't multitask all kinds of things. And you see that even though in the state of New Hampshire, we own property up there, so we travel, highways enough. It doesn't matter whether they know that it's right or wrong, they still do it. But that's also when John would say, the speed limit is 55 or 65. Are you actually going according to the speed limit? And many people would say, I'm not telling you because this is public information. You admit guilt. So there's a lot that goes on relative to this. One of the questions that one of the callers asked prior to you just getting here had to do with the quality of education and or how we teach and that we're not teaching according to whatever is politically correct. That becomes very difficult today. I mean, I'm watching, and I don't want to necessarily have a long discussion on this. I'm watching the news, and it is just, I'm just horrified at the direction this country may be going in terms of erasing pieces of history so that we don't learn by what it was, even if we don't agree with what happened
glossing
in the South.
Over the past to make it look better.
Oh yeah, or taking it all away, or only leaving certain things up, and then being selective. I mean, if you're taking down statues, you take all of them down, or you have specific places to put them. Like you have statues of Lenin in this country. That's worse than the statue of Robert E. Lee. And I'm not saying that I'm in favor
You've opened up
of what
a whole
they did.
issue, and that's the end of the show.
I know, and I waited, so we wouldn't go off.
Hang on for 1 second, okay? Because I'm getting some questions about this lawsuit, and
I know, bring it back.
one woman, she worded it nicely, proportional voting. And tonight, Lowell Votes is going to have a meeting, I'm going to go back to this text, at the LA Presbyterian Church. The reason I put this up, here's the Lord Overpass, there's the South Common, there's the City Life Studios right there. This is the LA Presbyterian Church. So if you don't know and Lowell has a really bad habit